What's going on, beautiful people of YouTube? It's Renebean. I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time, and I figure now's the better time than ever. I wrote the list out this morning, and being a part of the retro community as long as I have, dealing with so many messages and comments and interactions with people, I feel like I got a pretty good understanding on the different types of collectors out there. So if you ever ask yourself, what type of collector are you? Hell, what type of collector am I or they are? Hopefully this list will help you out. It'll probably piss a handful of you off, and it'll probably make a lot of you out there laugh, because you know many people like this. There's good types and there's not so good types. So sit back and relax. Let's see what we got. So before we start the video, let me go ahead and tell you that no matter what type of collector you are personally or someone else is, it doesn't really matter. We're all in this hobby together. We all have the same interest and love for video games. And if you are offended by any of this on this list, you may want to take a step back and look at yourself in the eyes of collecting and say, maybe I should change it up a little bit or change my perspective or views on certain things. So there's no particular order for this list right here, and the reason for that is some of these collectors feed off the types of other collectors. Some may not even exist without the other one. Think of it kind of like Reddit. If you know anything about it, think of Reddit as the retro gaming community and all the subreddits being types of collectors. So with that said, let's start off with shelf collectors. The reason I want to start off with shelf collectors is this is the #1 label that I hear in the retro community, and it's seen so negatively. It's used very often. That's like the #1 name calling label that people give to others, and that is a shelf collector. I don't think it's bad at all for someone to have appreciation or get a great feeling from something that they own or that they've earned. If you may never play any of the games that you have in your collection, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. A lot of people have these nostalgic feelings for these games that they grew up with. They may pick up a game and say, I used to play this when I was younger. I had so many great memories with it. I may not play this ever again, but it's just nice having it. Being a shelf collector kind of leads into being an everything collector, which in a sense is kind of what I am. There's hundreds and hundreds of games in here that I will most likely never play, never have the opportunity to, but it's nice just having them. They didn't cost me anything. They've made me money over the years. People know that. That's, you know, how I do. I buy, flip, and grow this amazing collection, and it didn't cost me anything out of pocket. I don't see any problem with that. If I want to have what I earned, it's, you know, a nice little staple. It's not a problem at all. I play a lot of these games in here. I try to get to them as much as I can. I have a backlog the size of like Mount Everest. It's unreal. People don't realize there may be an underlying reason why someone is a type of collector that they are. I see videos online now of kids, you know, when they were younger, family footage of them getting brand new stacks of Nintendo games and whatnot. I was never that type of kid. We didn't have that much money growing up. For us, a brand new video game came, like a lot of you out there, on your birthday and Christmas. Everything else was through rentals. I like having my own rental store in here. I used to love going into a rental shop, Blockbuster, Magic Show Video, wherever it may be, thinking to myself, man, I'd love to play that game, or I'd like to pick that one up, but I never could because we only had that one shot, and I had 2 older brothers. They always had first dibs. So while I may not play all these games in here and may never get around to actually trying them out, I earned these games. I picked them up. They didn't cost me anything, and they've made me money. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. So if someone wants to collect anything and everything that they want, by all means, go for it. So how I said earlier, some of these types of collectors won't really exist without the life of another one. Well, let's talk about elitist collectors. You can always get the hint that someone is an elitist collector when they tell you the basic sentence of, I only collect what I play. And it's not bad at all to do that. If you only want to collect games that you know you're going to play, or if you don't hunt and you are on a budget and that's what you want to collect, by all means. I'm talking about the type of people that get on to other people, let's say everything collectors, and they say it negatively, like, oh, you have all that stuff, I only collect what I want to play. I see all that as a waste of time or a waste of money. That's the elitist collector to me. And then also you have these types of elitist collectors that say, oh, I can't have that game, it's not Black Label. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. We all have our goals and our way of collecting, but when you come off as douchey, in a sense, a word that we must say, that's when you start having this negative side associated with you. And I see that all the time, and it hurts me to no end when someone says, I only collect what I play, when it comes into the field of someone, showing off their collection, or someone talking about parts of their game room. And they say it so negatively. They say it to these people as if they're doing wrong by collecting games that they're not going to play, and that's always bugged me. And being someone who collects games to only play, to have the ones on their shelf that they know they're going to go back to, nothing wrong with that at all. Being someone who collects Black Label only, there's nothing wrong with that. It's when you throw it in people's face, almost like you're trying to educate them on how you're supposed to be a collector, that's when it becomes negative, and that's when it becomes real douchey, in my opinion. Then you got selective collectors out there. These people are awesome to me. They collect, they may only have specific goals. I only collect PlayStation 2 games, or I only collect this specific generation. I don't collect anything else. Those people, like I said, are interesting. They have their own mindset. They have their own goals that they want to reach, and they usually achieve them, which is awesome. Being an everything collector, I'll most likely never achieve anything in here. I'm trying to achieve a complete N64 collection. Probably won't even happen for as small a set that is, because I'm always grabbing something else. But you can be a negative type of selective collector when you start to fall in line with the elitist. You're selective on, I can't pick up this game because it has no manual. Even though it's a phenomenal deal in price, I can't enjoy it unless it's got its manual. Some people out there may be thinking like, well, I only like to collect complete in-box stuff too, and that's completely fine. But when you're acting sour about it because of the fact, or you're trying to show out to other people like, oh, I would never pick that up, it's not complete, or there's a bend in the artwork, that's when you start to come off as someone not seen so positively in this community. I've always considered myself the upgradable type of collector. If I come across a game that's better condition than one that I have in the game room, of course I'm going to change it out, and I've always felt that's kind of the better way of doing it. I'll never let a bad copy, or just a not so pretty copy of a game deter me from actually getting it. If it's something that I want to enjoy and play, I'll get it now, because playing the game's not going to be any different, depending on how the artwork looks at all. Great example is my Chrono Trigger. Looks absolutely terrible, plays perfectly. I want to talk about my favorite type of collector, and by favorite I mean the one that just kind of annoys me the most, and I think a lot of people out there will agree with me on this one, and that is the entitled griefed collectors. And I'm kind of coming up with just like made up terms for these collectors, because I have no idea how to label someone. It's not really the thing that I do, but you'll understand what I mean when I say it. So the entitled grief collectors, this is probably where some of the dislikes in this video are going to come from. These are the types of people that are going to leave that dislike. That's okay. You're entitled to that opinion. If you do, leave a comment. Let me know why you're mad about it. These are the ones that feel other people are ruining the hobby. Other different types of collectors, they feel that this hobby is being drowned and ruined by other people that are not them. It's okay to collect at any time in your life. I have people that'll message me that say, hey, I'm 10 years old and I'm getting into retro games. I think that's absolutely awesome. I have people say that, hey, I'm 50, I'm 60 years old and I'm getting into retro collecting. Nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's amazing. But unless you've been doing this since these games came out and been doing this a certain way, you are not entitled to actually be in this hobby. That's the type of people that I'm talking about. And I know for a fact many of you out there have encountered these types of people, and it bugs the hell out of me. They try to separate themselves from the whole community. They try to succeed from this whole group of people by saying we are the entitled. We are the ones that are allowed to do this. Everyone else is not. Bullshit. If you want to collect video games for whatever reason it may be, by all means, do it. The only thing you're doing is helping this hobby by shining light onto it and letting other people know about it. And I think a lot of that stems from the game prices. Obviously, games have shot up over the years. Some have gone down, some are going up. And that's okay to me. Hell, I make a business out of it. It doesn't bother me at all to pick up a lot, flip it, make some money, and make some games for my collection. I think what pisses a lot of these grief collectors out there is they may have been collecting when games literally were very cheap. Hell, I can remember going in the flea market and seeing a table full of NES games for $1. And it's not like that anymore, but I looked at it as a business opportunity as the prices went up. A lot of these grief collectors, they may not have that get factor to actually want to get out and hunt for these games, and they don't realize how lucrative it could actually be if they just got up and worked for it. And it's extremely hypocritical for this type of collector too, because I'll see them in the same situation where they say, I only pick up games at conventions, or I don't sell games. Well, guess what? If you trade games or you go to conventions, you're paying, you're buying, you're selling these games for the prices that they sell for, that us, the community, has chosen that price for. It's not that resellers are setting the price, it's the price that people are willing to pay for them. That's why prices are going down for certain things, because people aren't willing to pay as much for them. If someone's willing to give me, $1,200 for a copy of Little Samson, I didn't set that price. That's the price they chose to pay for it. If you are not willing to trade me your copy of Little Samson for my copy of, Double Dribble for the NES, then yes, it is the same thing when it comes to selling and trading. No matter what you do, if you go to conventions or if you buy, flip, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. And it's very hypocritical when you say that you don't. And these are the same type of people that leave comments on my videos, other people's videos. I see it all the time. And it's always something like, why did you have to pick up all copies of that game? Why couldn't you just leave, or take one and leave the rest for everybody else? Well, my friend, it's for the same reason that if you went to a yard sale or flea market and you came across, let's say, a big box of factory sealed surprise at Dinosaur Peak Flintstone games, and a big shipping box that may have 10 or 12 in there, you're not just going to pick one and leave the rest for everybody else. Oh hell no, you're going to pick them all up and flip them, trade them, doesn't matter. You're going to take them. I would do it in a heartbeat. And guess what you're going to trade and sell them for? You're going to trade them for the price that us, the community, has set. So this type of collector I wouldn't necessarily say is a collector, and there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with this type that I'll talk about at first, and that's people who only play emulator games. They have their Raspberry Pis or whatever it may be. There's nothing wrong with that. It's still all the same thing. We're playing retro games. We're having fun. For me personally, that's something that I do not do. I like to play on original hardware. I know a lot of emulators and ROMs out there don't play to the performance that the original stuff does. So that's just me, but I don't have any problem if someone wants to pick up a Raspberry Pi and load it up with 1 billion games and save all their room and, turn this type of game room into a children's room or whatever it may be. If they have kids or they want to have a different hobby, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me at all. And then you have the type of emulator players out there. Like I said, I don't necessarily call them collectors. I guess there's people out there that collect, Raspberry Pis or different type of, emulator machines. But there's a different type of those people. There's the type that like to lurk in this community only to try to educate and preach to people and teach them that they are wasting their time and their money and their valuable resources in this hobby, when all they could do is spend $150 and have everything they could ever want in the palm of their hand. For those people, I always have the same thought in my head: let's get the fuck out of here. I don't want to deal with your ass. I collect video games. It's what I do. It's what I enjoy. That's my hobby. That's the fun that I have in life. And for someone to come in and tell me that you don't need to be doing this, you don't need to be spending this money for... Actually, I don't spend money on this. It makes me money. But it doesn't matter. These people try to get into these people's lives, and I see it on comments all the time or whatever it may be, and they're telling these people, literally, you can't do this. You're wasting your money. I've had people spam some of my videos, like leaving 8 or 9 comments, in succession saying, you can't do this. You're wasting your money. Buy a Raspberry Pi. Do this, do that. I'm like, that's the most toxic behavior I've ever seen in this community, that they're not necessarily a part of if they're acting like that. If you want to play emulated games but enjoy it and enjoy the actual games and not spread your negativity to other people, you are definitely part of this community. But for someone to do something like that, in my eyes, you are not part of this community at all. You kind of treat it as like this religion that no one knows about and not a lot of people really want to be a part of, and you're trying to force them onto that. If you came about it in a different way, you'll probably convert some people over. I know a lot of collectors out there that are slowly going to emulators. They need the room, they need the money, they sell off their collections. It's perfectly fine. But for the ones out there that feel they need to educate people and teach them because they're doing wrong, those are the people that I simply can't tolerate. So there's only a couple more types of collectors I can talk about. The next one, which I think a lot of people view as negative is an investor collector. People that only collect because they know the pricing of games. For some of them are going up while some of them are going down. They kind of treat it like a stock market. They only have these games never to play. They may not even like video games to play, but they have them for a simple investment. That can be viewed negatively, can be viewed positively. For me, like I said, I love games. I enjoy games, but don't get me wrong at all. If I broke my leg tomorrow and my insurance was denied, you best believe I will sell this shit in a heartbeat and cover that expense. It doesn't hurt me at all. If I had to, it would suck and it would break my heart a bit, but I'd get right back into it. For some people out there, they see this as a money-making opportunity, and that's capitalism, people. It doesn't bother me at all if someone wants to go down to the river, pull some fish out, and then sell them on the side of the road. Well, guess what? He's allowed to put whatever price he wants on that fish. If you don't like it, get your ass up, take a fishing pole down to that same river and get your own fish. I never got into this hobby simply for the fact to make money. I've always been in it before the money actually was there, before it went up. But when I did see the money start going up, you best believe I looked at it as a business opportunity. I was like, well, hell, I've always been collecting games. I know how to hunt for them. I know how to get them. Now I can make some money off of it. And it was, hand in hand. It just kind of went with me. So I think a lot of people see it that way, whether they like to admit it or not. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have games knowing you have this nice little nest egg surrounding you. And then I guess you have the people who aren't necessarily collectors at all, and they are specifically investors. They have no interest, like I said, in the video games. They just want to get them to flip them. Those are the people that you see at flea markets who have no idea what the hell a video game is, but they know that it's worth money, and they're going to pick it up and they're going to sell it. At the flea market services, these two old guys, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this on one of my live videos, and it was the funniest thing that I've ever dealt with. This was like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, hell, I have no idea. And I'm at this table. They got to it before me. I know that they are resellers. They sell everything, at their tables there at the flea market. And I saw that this person was pulling out some video games, and I hear one of the older guys, and these guys, when I say older, they're like, 50, 60 years old, older than me at least. And they say, got any Margio games? I think he said Margio or something like that. And I was like, what? I was like, I a lot of people who know what I'm talking about, they know that these people are the ones, they have no idea what the video game is, but they know it's worth money. He's like, got any Margio games? And I wanted to jump in and say, do you got any Luigi games as well? But I didn't. But it's what it is, people. And I guess the final one on my list here that I see is clout collectors. These are the people that only collect to really show off. These are the types of people that say, oh, you got that game? Well, guess what? I got this game complete unboxed. And there's so much bragging and showing off that they do. And I see it, I see it a lot, I guess, maybe with like Facebook groups and things like that. I see it in comments. I see it everywhere. And a lot of people know what I'm talking about. These are the people that they most likely don't even know what game they're talking about that they're showing off. They just know that it's expensive or it's rare. For me personally, I'm honestly not the biggest fan of having crazy expensive games in my library. If I have something, well over, $300 or $400 in my collection, I'll usually play it and enjoy it and sell it before that game drops in price. I'll enjoy it and get rid of it, and I can turn that $300, $400, whatever price game that may be, into 5 or 6 games that I would love to keep in my collection versus one that is just going to sit there and look beautiful on the shelf. And it's absolutely okay to have amazing, expensive collections. I've seen people that have some of the rarest stuff in their collections. Like I said, being part of this community, people send me pictures and, messages all the time of things they have, and I think that's absolutely incredible. But when you start to get, dickish about it and saying, look at this, look what I got, that's when it comes off as being this type of clout collector that, like I said, a lot of people in this community don't really appreciate. Alright guys, so that's it. That's all I got to say. I'm sure there are many other types of collectors that I left out, or something that you may have thought of that I didn't mention. Let me know in the comments the type of collectors that you think I should have included on this list, and who knows, maybe we'll make another type of video like this. So with that said, guys, if you have not checked out the Discord server, I'll leave a link in the description as well as a pinned comment. We just talk about retro games, flipping, selling, buying. We talk about everything there. People like to show pictures of their game rooms or the finds that they get. Completely awesome. Check it out. So, as always, guys, thank you for watching. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.